Alright, so let's go back to wireframe. But this is a separate entity right now from this entity. Let's go ahead and join those. So we're going to union the clevis section with the arm section. And so now we have one solid. Okay, now I want to create the boss that makes up this feature here on the top here. And it is 27 millimeters total in width, but it has a 10 millimeter distance on the back. So that means that if we subtract 10 and from 27, we get 17, and the width of the bar is 14, which it means it's going to extrude towards us by 3 millimeters. And we're going to do an extrude based off this circle. We're going to hit enter, and we're going to go 24 millimeters. And then we're going to see if we can do a press pull, holding the shift key down and selecting two regions. And we're going to come out the front 3 millimeters. Okay, so if we did it correctly, we've got the cylinder here, and we were to shade it, we've got a boss on both sides, but it's sticking out the back more. Let's do a union between the cylinder and the main body. And we now have all one piece. Alright, so we just have the clevis on this end, some pockets on both sides, and then we have a whole lot of fillets. Okay, so we have all these construction lines we've already placed. This vertical line represents 140 millimeters from the center of this hole to the center of the 13 millimeter hole in the side of the clevis. The position of everything else is pretty much dependent on that. So we're going to go to the front view. World Coordinate System, front view. But I'm going to rotate my view back a little bit. Now I want to operate in a plane where I'm drawing based off the drawing. So the position of the clevis in the top view is based off a 12 millimeter dimension coming off of this corner here in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the end point of this back corner. And we're going to switch to the top view, and I'm going to offset that line by the 12 millimeters that's on our drawing. Okay, so that's the plane we're going to work in, but we're going to work in the front view now. Alright, so just so we don't have any confusion, we're going to delete that construction line. And we'll start modeling our shape. Okay, so we're going to draw, we know the top of the clevis flat spot is the same height as the bar, which is 22 millimeters. So we're going to offset by 22 millimeters the bottom edge. We connect the left, and we've got our left edge in 3D space where that clevis is going to be. Alright, now we need to figure out what's going on the opposite side. So we know that 29 millimeters from this edge, it should be the center of our 13 millimeter hole. So we're going to go offset We're going to go 29 millimeters. But we don't know for sure where the height is. So let's study our drawing. So we have a tangent radius. So we know we have a radius 12 from the 29 line, which is, this is 29. When we know we have a 12 millimeter radius, so we need the extents of our part is 12 millimeters from that edge. So we're going to go offset 12 and offset to the right. Okay, now let's extend the edges so we see our box. Okay, at the point where the 19 millimeter radius that comes tangent to here hits this edge, defines where the center line of the other circles are. So we don't know where the center of that arc is, but we know it's 19 millimeters to the left of here and 19 millimeters up. So if we were to offset 19 millimeters, the radius from the bottom to the top, this should be the tangency point of where the R12 times 2 meets the R19 times 2. If I were to draw a circle on this intersection with a radius of 12, it should intersect with that tangency point. We've now found the center of this arc based off deductive reasoning of the 19 millimeter radius. So let's go and let's put in our fillet. It's going to be a radius of 19 millimeters and double check our work. There we go. So the 19 millimeter arc comes up, it hits tangency here, and that defines where the center of our 12 millimeter is. So it was dimensioned, it's just you have to get somewhat to it in an indirect way. Okay, so let's trim up that geometry. Trim. Okay, we don't need this piece of the arc. We don't need this piece of the arc. We don't need that piece of the arc. We don't need this piece of the line. We don't need this piece of the line, that piece of the line, that piece of the line, or that. So we should have a smooth blend there and trim off that piece of the line. So I'll move the, like I did before, I'll move the profile we need to extrude to the construction layer so you can see it. So if I select the elements we have, it should be those elements, and we're going to move them to the construction layer. Okay, so the cyan lines are going to be what we are going to extrude. Okay, so let's make a region out of those. And then we're going to do an extrude on that region. And we're going to come forward 38. So that piece should be located in space correctly now. Now let's do a union between that component and the rest of the model. Alright, so we now have most of the lifter, dash pot lifter. We need to put in 2 holes and we need to put in 2 pockets. And then that's all fillets after that. Okay, so I'm going to move out of the shaded mode here, go back to wireframe. And we still have our intersection of where our hole should be in the back here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put in a circle, and that circle is going to be, go to a diameter of 13. Okay, and then we're going to do a press pull, holding the shift key down, which will allow us to select more than one region. And we're going to go through our part. That way, 38. Okay, we should have a hole. Which we do. Okay, let's go do our other one. Okay, we're going to do a circle. We're going to pick up on the center of the boss. And it's a 10 millimeter diameter, so we're going to go diameter 10. And now we can go press pull. We're going to pick on the center of that, and this one's 27 millimeters. And we should have a hole there now. Alright, now it's time to make the pockets. Okay, the pockets. There's an error on the drawing. It calls out an R8. It should be an R7. If you do the math, an R8 won't fit where they're calling it. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to the, we're already in the front view. We're going to draw on this plane on the front. So at this 41 millimeter line, at the center, we need to put in a radius, a circle. So that circle is going to be at the intersection here, and it's a diameter, but it's a radius of 7. We then need to come down here, and at the intersection of 81 millimeters, it should be here, and the center of the width of this bar is another one. So I'm going to draw a line from edge to edge. That's our 22. And we're going to see if we can extend this line down, down again, and then if we then trim off the piece in between, the segment in the middle here is, we can use to measure where the hole is, or the circle is. So we're going to pick on the midpoint of it, and we're going to put in our 7 radius circle for the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and delete some of these lines here. Now, if I create a 3-point arc, picking up on the edges of our 6 millimeter fillet, I should be able to offset that arc by 4 millimeters. If we look at our cross section, it's an R2. So if you multiply that by 2, the offset is 4 millimeters. And so we should get an arc that should hit tangency with the circle. And then we can offset, we can do the same thing on this top arc. I'm going to turn O-snaps back on, but endpoint, endpoint, endpoint gives us a 3-point arc that we can then offset by 4 millimeters. And we've gotten a consistent wall thickness here. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing down here. Okay. So we're going to repeat that procedure down here at the bottom. We're going to do a 3-point arc. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to repeat the command. One, 2, 3. And then we can go to the offset command. It's going to go 4 again. Okay, we're going to offset by 4 the top one as well. If we can find it. There we go. Alright, so at this point we should be able to trim up the center of both of those. And then now we just need to draw tangent lines between the two. Okay, so now I'm going to use a press pull command, holding the shift key down, so I can select the 3 regions we want. And I'll hit enter to accept that, and it's going to go in 3 millimeters. So we now should have a pocket that follows the shape we need. Now we need to have that same pocket on the opposite side. Now there's more than one way you can approach that. Move copy and just press pull it from the other side, or you could mirror it if you set up a 3D mirror plane to use. I think I'm just going to copy the geometry. I'm going to get rid of most of this construction geometry that's floating out here. Clean this up a little bit. You go to a wireframe layer. Okay, so this has gotten busy enough, and I probably should have been drawing all my construction geometry in the construction layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily move my model. So I'm going to pick on the model, and I'm going to temporarily move the model itself to the pictorial view dimensions. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to hide that layer, and that will allow me to select all of this stuff and move it to the construction layer so that I can see it in blue. Okay, I don't need these circles anymore. I don't need these circles anymore. I don't need this radius, that radius, or that radius, or that radius. Okay. So there's actually nothing in the model layer at the moment. To generate the pocket on the other side, I'm going to take this geometry here we see, and I'm going to move it. So I'm going to do a move from a point I've selected with ortho on 14 millimeters. we're going to go to our layers and we're going to make pictorial and dimensions visible again. And we'll select our model and we're going to move it back onto the model layer. There we go. Alright, so I've now moved the geometry I used to do the first push-pull to the back side of the part. So now I'm going to do a press-pull from the opposite side in, and that's going to go the same distance, 3 millimeters. So we go back to conceptual and we should have our pocket on both sides.